This is the Ninja's Way podcast, where we talk all things ninja industry, ranging from top-tier athletes to the local ninja entrepreneur. Listen to their journey to success as they conquer obstacles in ninja and in life. This is the Ninja's Way. Welcome back to the Ninja's Way podcast. I am here with Jake, our co-host from Conquer Ninja, and we have John Pyne from the USA Ninja Association. We are going to talk all things ninja today. Why don't you just first tell us what is the USA Ninja Association? How does it interact with the ninja industry, just for maybe people who don't know?
Yeah, so I'm going to throw some alphabet soup at you a little bit, just with all the different acronyms. But USA Ninja is a technical committee of USAPM, Modern Pentathlon. So the national governing body of pentathlon in the U.S. We are a technical committee of that. It means we work in close collaboration with USAPM. But even taking a step further back, really the need for creating this board stemmed out of just that being thrust into the international stage, starting with modern pentathlon following the 2020 Olympics. There was a need to replace equestrian as the fifth discipline in the modern pentathlon. There were 60 different international federations that made pitches to UIPM, the International Federation for Modern Pentathlon. It's Union Internationale de Pentathlon Moderne. World Obstacle came in and made the pitch for obstacle sports, obstacle racing. And out of all of the 60 pitches, obstacle racing was one of the most exciting pitches that came through. And it really fit in with a lot of the technical skills, some of the values that modern pentathlon already sees fit, which is, agility, endurance, speed, both the mental and the physical disciplines required for those athletes. So it was a perfect match. It was approved in the 141st IOC meetings out in Dubai back in 2023 fall. So during all of this, it came quickly together to say, hey, U.S. being one of the strongest representatives of ninja sport, obstacle sport, we need to put together a national governing body to help make this work from a partnership standpoint, but then also look at how we can be good stewards of the sport overall. So that's a long-winded explanation of kind of some of the history of how it all came together. But USA Ninja as an organization, again, national governing body tied in right now with Modern Pen, but came together the last 18 months or so. And it's been history ever since.
Awesome. Very cool. And you touched on a couple of things I definitely want to dive deeper into, but I do want to just, like, you claim yourselves as the governing body. Okay. So what does that mean from maybe like a gym owner perspective or an athlete perspective? Like, how does that actually interact, and what kind of maybe standards are you guys looking to uphold?
It's the main mission and vision is just to be, first of all, good stewards of the sport, and try to push for must-haves, right? Must-haves in regards to things like safe sport, making sure we are good stewards and good protection around the sport that we all love. It is not our goal to dive into the leagues and try to tell them how to run their leagues. So I think one of the things that we love promoting is that we are league agnostic, meaning we can partner and work with each representatives from all leagues. We can represent athletes across all spectrums. We don't put any sort of limitations there, but again, it allows us to position ourselves to really just look after the sport overall. Like I said, I think it's really being a good steward of the sport. I think we also recognize that there are many individuals and many organizations that have helped to get us to the place we are. We need to, as our board, stepping in saying, look, we're a volunteer board, done a really great job of getting to where we have in the last 18 months, but we recognize that there has been a path that's set out before us, just with how all of these gyms, leagues, athletes have been promoting the sport and running it well to get it to where it currently is. So I think that's a big piece of the culture of our board is we have representation of different gym owners, individuals who work closely with specific leagues, athletes. It's a collection of those who all just want to push this sport forward, cast out any egos and taking claim to anything, but it's really just looking at being a good steward of the sport.
So you're talking about the board. So are you affiliated with any gym, or are you Ninja, like anything like that?
Myself personally, yeah, personally, I'm a co-owner of a ninja gym in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Urban Playground. I myself really I myself only gotten into ninja in the last 2-3 years through my kids competing in competitions across all the different leagues. I also have dived into competitions, my wife and I, so we are a family of seven, and all of us
Wow.
compete competitively. All five of my kids, my youngest this is his first season, he's turning 6, and my wife and I actually compete in ninja. So we've really just over the last couple of years have got a little taste for ninja and just went all in with coming on board as a partner in our local ninja gym, and then getting
Yep.
involved with USA Ninja.
Wow, that is so cool. And I was a part of the team that started the Ultimate Ninja Athlete Association. And that was like one of our visions, was to have a sport where the entire family can compete, right? Like the little brother, the little sister, the mom, the dad, and you guys are living that out. And so I think that it's
Yeah.
so cool that your whole family is involved in it in that way, and that your kids can like catch fire, and now you're a gym owner, and now you have an organization, right? It's all
Yeah.
in the last 18 months. That's a pretty fast timeline.
Anyone who gets a taste for this sport, it's such a cool culture that gyms and organizations have put out to create the sport, to create the culture that it is. I don't know where else you can find that, where a whole family can get involved, like ours have had the benefit too. But then also just going to competitions where athletes in different teams are competing against each other, but they're cheering for each other because it's ultimately you versus the forest. So I know you've lived and breathed that, you feel that too. It's worth reiterating. It's such a cool dynamic for any families to get involved with, and we're big proponents of trying to pull people into the sport that are looking on the outside.
No doubt we're going off on the sport itself, but with that said, that really hit me just seeing the world finals at the WNL UNA this year. And I've been in the ninja business for 10, 11 years. I know the industry and I know like families are involved, but it never really hit me. And you just said it there. Literally, this is a sport that the whole family can actually do it. So, like other youth sports, my kids did it, soccer, lacrosse, gymnastics. Parents can't do it with them. Like, I didn't, we had parents play the kids in a practice one time or something, but it literally is a youth sport where mom and dad can also compete. We have families in our gyms like yours in the sense that the parents compete in their age bracket, the kids compete in theirs. It truly is like a family sport.
Yeah, and it's so approachable. I like, there are different, talk about the leagues, the formats. There are a lot of different formats that are approachable for amateurs to step in and get involved, which again is a really neat dynamic of the sport itself.
What is the long-term objective of this organization looking forwards 10 years from now? What role do you guys want to play, and what objectives are you looking to achieve?
Yeah, it's a couple fronts. We mentioned just coming in with modern pentathlon. It's been publicly put out there that modern pentathlon has a collaboration with World Obstacle, right? So the vision there is that, or the way to actually break it down rather, is to say, think about the model of USA Aquatics, right? You have diving, swimming, synchronized swimming, all under the same umbrella. It starts to look similar with obstacle disciplines as this gets introduced at that international Olympic level. So again, 2028, we know for sure, it's been talked about a lot, is you'll have that obstacle discipline as the 5th discipline in the modern pentathlons. It's been put out there. It's a ninja warrior style, right? I mean, the media is eating that up in terms of what this is actually going to look like. Because again, you look at the media side, there's over 1 billion people worldwide that watch either Sasuke or American Ninja War. So in terms of the entertainment perspective of that 5th discipline, it's a win for modern pentathlon, for ninja, and then for the casual entertainment, casual viewer from an entertainment standpoint. So I think, again, it's a short-term vision is really setting ourselves up with a very good collaboration with UIPM World Obstacle in terms of what does the framework look like when you're executing this obstacle discipline. But obviously, the events that we're putting on have the sort of underlying objective to bring more visibility to the sport overall. So, certainly our aim is to look at 2020 as a foot in the door and not that's where we end, right? Like we're not done with just being partnering with Modern Pentathlon.
Yeah, that was a great explanation of where it's fits in, because people were asking me, I'm the expert, and I'm like, I think it's going to be in, they're talking about it and how it actually is in there. Like you're talking about aquatics, that covers diving, swimming, all those things. And that's where I was not even compartmentalizing it, like, oh, modern pentathlon, what does that even mean? So great explanation on it. Now I get it.
Yeah, there's a lot of education behind this. Again, I think
right.
One of the challenges is marrying where I think USA Ninja really steps in and has had to really work with both sides is we have in the ninja community in the US, we have our sort of experience around what it's like competing in leagues, what it means to go from qualifiers to championships. At the international Olympic level, there's a whole host of different ways that is different than the traditional paths we see for competition. Like I said, every event that we do has that intention to say we're introducing some of that international standard or international way of even looking at age groups, right? Like how age groups are broken down. There's differences with the events that we're putting on versus the leagues.
Yeah, and I feel like obviously there's a lot of chatter around Ninja getting into the Olympics 2028, at least within this modern pentathlon. It feels like this backdoor into the Olympics, right? I know everybody, they want to see it as its own standalone event, as represented in that way, but I still think it's a massive step forwards for the industry, for Ninja, for OCR, and that's absolutely pushing it forwards. Do you see the future of this becoming its own category of you're going to have obstacle course racing and you would have your endurance course or your speed course or your head to head? Do you see that as a future for that?
Yeah, that's the question I think everybody wants to know, right? I think from a personal standpoint, can answer that one way. I think as an organization, it's no surprise that's part of what we're helping drive for, part of what we're helping push. And I think you're right. It begins with that visibility of executing it well in 2028 as the IOC and these international federations are making these decisions. Part of it comes to, okay, what is a big entertainment value, right? And you're talking about LA 2028, LA being a perennial filming location for American Ninja Warrior. Again, US athletes previously been dominating the sports. International athletes are coming on board and really developing their teams so that they can have a say about that too. We're extremely excited for LA 2028, but yes, looking forward, I would love to say, hey, this is the specific year, but again, we are pushing for that sooner rather than later.
We're talking to gym owners here, and I was just like thinking about this from a gym owner perspective, because it's okay, you have 4 other disciplines in the modern pentathlon, right? Adding obstacle course racing to that. Are these ninja athletes going to go and learn these disciplines, or are these people who are already pentathlon athletes going to push and learn how to learn to do obstacle course racing? From a gym owner perspective, and this is a question for Jake as well, it's like, how do you guys see this interacting with the gym model? Are we bringing these other disciplines into the gym? How can we best capitalize on the Olympic craze from a gym owner perspective?
Yeah. No, great question. I'm Googling pentathlon sports right now. So, no.
Yeah. As a gym owner myself too, I think what I'm seeing at the gym level and what I'm seeing at USA Ninja is similar. It's both frameworks, right? So it is the ninja athlete that, again, if depending on their age, they can position themselves to actually be competitive in 2028. Let's not forget, if you look at modern pentathlon and those disciplines, you do not, those individual times for swimming or for running are not going to be podium times or podium scores at the individual respective disciplines. So it is that overall athlete, and we are USA Modern Pentathlon. We're partnering with them to think about recruiting programs, right? So starting in the gyms of those athletes that already have mastered ninja, but also enjoy swimming, running, because then it's just, okay, there are translatable skills there. Fencing is, and not to simplify it, but fencing is something we see, again, these broad athletes pick up quickly in terms of just mastering some of the basic stances, the technical skills there. I actually personally have seen it even on the coming from the other side, where we have a member of one of the South American countries' national team who came into the gym and was like, "Hey, can you help me out? I've been practicing on. I'm in the modern pentathlon national team of his respective country, and he has to learn the obstacle discipline." So that was cool, I think, to see just for opportunities from both sides. At USA Ninja, we are trying to provide resources to gyms, nationwide about, hey, what does this look like? Here's different partnerships you can have with modern pentathlon if you want to go that route. Yeah. We've already heard some gyms who are opening up fencing clinics or doing things like that. So that's cool to see. But I think even back to your previous question is there's a long-term strategy at play as well about where ninja itself is and proposing them individually for individual disciplines in the Olympics.
As we're talking about it, it really it opens up is it the end all be all for ninja? No, but it's a foot in the door, and it also gives ninja and ninja gyms, ninja business in general, an opportunity to really reach out to people where they're training for pentathlons, other pentathletes. It crosses that sport over and brings them both more into light, so you can create more relationships outside of just your local businesses that you might network with. So I see a lot of value there, getting more awareness out there. But you brought something up earlier when you're talking about 2028, where we would see it after that. And you said, if we can execute on it, do a good job on it, that shouldn't be a problem, because have you ever been in a ninja competition where it didn't run perfect?
always on time, Jake. Always on time.
Yeah. You know, that's a no-brainer. Like, it'll run fine.
I think on that point, it's incredible. And I think I almost lose perspective of this sometimes. People who've seen the sport for the first time, whether it's sponsors or going back to Orlando, our first World Cup that we did July 2023, we had a videographer who has worked with Modern Pentathlon. He was the one cutting up video, and he was, after the weekend, he was like the biggest fan of ninjas. Like, this is incredible. Like so anyone coming into this, and especially seeing it in person, that's a whole wave of excitement that they leave with. So we need to, reminding the details on, I think you put any competition on, even at a local level, there's a lot of that's needed to execute it as well as possible. And I think when we look at ourselves, even post-event for U.S. Nationals, we're talking as our board, okay, here's a couple things that we internally know that we planned for one thing and it happened differently. But as much as you can keep that internal or really have those be such small, nuances that go unnoticed, I think that's great. But then it's also something as a board, we're really trying to challenge ourselves to execute at that very high level, set a very high standard. We know each of these events has that extra weight to it from that sort of international exposure.
Well, and I have to tell you, I'm putting hats off to you guys at the World Obstacle Expo. Your course was clean. It was professional. It was well padded. You had very cool obstacles, as well as all down to the little details, right? It's like there was multiple judges on a course. You got a professional timing system. You got a professional scoring system. You got the big name ninjas wearing the jerseys, doing the commentating. You had the live stream there, and all those small things. It's like those things take time and planning and execution and the right people in the right spots, right? And good leadership to make all those things happen. And from having experienced myself of what it takes to run those events, like I was stepping back and I was like, man, hats off to you guys, put on a really professional event. And I feel like it brought up the level, that professionalism to that event that I think Ninja's really needed for a long time, right? That it's, hey, we do really take this seriously, and we're gonna show that in the level of professionalism that we put out. So I absolutely think that you guys crushed that event. What are some things or some challenges around putting on an event like that maybe people just have no understanding of?
Yeah. First of all, I appreciate that, Ali. I've said it before, but I got to give all that credit to our entire board. We, like I said, it's about 10 to 12 people. We have representation across all levels of the ninja industry, from the, coaches, gym owners, athletes, members of the leagues. We have even just the geographical diversity that we have people who are out in Michigan, Illinois, Colorado, Texas, Florida, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, New York. So I think geographically we're spread all over. So I think it really, all those different viewpoints and all those different perspectives of what they've seen in the sport, competing in different leagues, has really helped create a very strong board that we're not afraid to really get our hands dirty in terms of, okay, let's break it down to the nitty gritty of what we want to, how this needs to look. What are some of those minute details that we need to be on top of? So I think it's really like a lot of credit, first of all, has to go to the board. These are volunteers. We're not getting paid for any of this. We love the sport, and we really want to be good stewards of pushing it forward. But yes, it's a lot of planning up to a year in advance of how we pull everything together. And like I said, you're never going to execute 100% perfect, but I think we have the hunger and drive to continuously improve and get better. So I think that's critical. I'd say, you mentioned what's something, even an example of something that's pulling together. Like the live stream was something where we had commentators that we were lining up to about 2 weeks before. I don't know if you got a chance to see, but Isaac Caldiero came out, flew out just for one event, doing the 40 plus division. We wanted to make sure we had each slot filled. So I put myself on the list as like a backup commentator if you absolutely needed it. I ended up jumping in as well on a couple of those segments. So that's something I think it was just funny how it all worked out. And as we got closer and closer, my thought is, okay, we got everything finished. We're signed, sealed, and delivered. And that's when we had a lot of momentum of, a couple of weeks, I'd love to come and fly down. So that was just a great example of just Isaac coming last minute, something that wasn't planned for months in advance that just that happened.
To piggyback on what Ali was saying, kudos, because literally that, walking in there, people were like, whether they were ninjas, parents, whatever, like myself, I don't do a lot of ninja anymore. I'm not in the gyms as much because I'm running around running gyms. I wanted to do that course. Like that, it just draws people in. And then when you were running it, it was the excitement. It was clean, professional, everything that Ali was saying. That's what is building and increasing the value of the sport. And it's exciting to see, because that I almost was upset that I wasn't able to get on that course, because I was like, I really think that would have been fun. But yeah, so great work with it. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, thank you. The ATS team, again, who puts on the
Yeah.
format for American Ninja Warriors, they've been a great team to work with, very professional. And then Carl and Ninja Works as well. So I think it's really, on top of all the man hours, the volunteers, the volunteer board that helps put this on, it's having strong partnerships that also have that same high standard of level of professionalism.
Absolutely.
But yes, it was a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to jump and play on that course too. I would agree.
Totally. So from an industry standpoint, where do you feel is the biggest pain point for Ninja, and how do you see solving that?
That's a great question. I think I would probably list a couple of points. I think both the positioning of it as a sport versus entertainment on TV, there's still a large learning gap in the general public, which I'm sure you've seen. Obviously, you say ninja, a lot of times the first thing people say is, okay, kung fu, karate, it's almost repositioning, okay, ninja warrior, like the show, right? That's a lot of times how first coming into the sport, we positioned it. But I think we're starting to see that. We're definitely starting to see that tide change where you just say ninja sport, ninja warrior, and then it's immediate click of people who will understand what you're talking about. So there is that education component of, okay, this is a real thriving sport. And I think what we talk about with international level competitions with 2028 and beyond, it's going to do wonders for creating visibility to the sport. It's one of those things that the rising tide carries all ships. So our hope is to really provide gyms, leagues, everybody, work with them, the resources and the explanations of what's going on so that it's a boost for everybody, right? It's a boost for the casual viewers, but it's a boost for entrants to the sport to compete in it.
How do you envision leading up to 2028 to qualifiers for the ninja portion or the obstacle portion? Is there any talk of that, like how a pentathlete would do a qualifier somewhere?
Yeah, I'll point to, again, UIPM has their scoring system, their standards built around, again, the 5 disciplines. But basically, it works similar to what you might see in other leagues of, okay, based on international competitions, based on regional competitions, here's that scoring system to really pick out the best athletes that would be competing for those national teams. So we're thinking along the same lines, again, working with modern pentathlon, especially USA modern pentathlon, of what does that look like on the ninja, the obstacle?
Right.
Because again, it's creating that framework, not just for 2028, but beyond that. When ninja makes that emergence into the Olympics as a standalone sport, you have to have a criteria in place, a selection committee that has developed this criteria of how did somebody compete at U.S. nationals, the various leagues and their championships, where do they finish? So it's all in the aim of naming a national team that can then go and compete at these world level Olympic, games.
Yeah, Ninja has this like natural identity of backyard innovation, right? You talked a little bit about that you guys, you're not like league specific and want to allow for the inclusivity of this kind of innovation to continue to thrive within Ninja. And I think that it needs that. But on the other hand, for it to be a standalone Olympic sport, it needs standardization and it needs much more clearer standards across all pieces of the industry, from the leagues to the gym owners and the curriculum that's taught in the actual classes, right? How do you see balancing that line, right? Okay, we need to be inclusive and have the innovation piece of it and not stifle that. But how do we also create some standardization around the sport that can actually make it big time, make it the real deal, right? And now it's not just a backyard course anymore. It's on the Olympic stage, and people need to have a level of seriousness that comes with that. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it starts with first acknowledging we need to have experts in the room from all walks that have wrestled with these concepts, that have dealt with this over the years. So you talk about the leagues. We obviously are league agnostic, so we invite all leagues to help collaborate along that aspect, and as well as the athletes that have been competing for years. So I think there's been a lot of good input in terms of, okay, where does it make sense to have push for some standardization in important areas, right? So we talk about safe sport. Again, some of these non-negotiables, I'll say, where we have to be, protect the sport overall, that the health and safety of the athletes, that has to be number one, right? It's pushing those sets of standards, but we're not going to say this is what it needs to look like at all areas of competition, in terms of the formats, in terms of how the leagues need to operate, because that's not what we're trying to do at all. I'll give you one example of something I think we've been pretty successful on, is development of our technical official program. That was our development committee in USA Ninjas, just done a fantastic job of working with World Obstacle to create a framework for the technical officials, creating a rule book of what this looks like, and creating a way to, again, develop and train technical officials that will be ready for 2028. So we have individuals that are on that committee now that are planning to actually officiate that obstacle portion with USA Modern Pentathlon in the games in LA 2028. And obviously, for any future developments beyond that at the international or Olympic level. That's a great example of where we get to work with these international federations to understand, this is why it's important to create standardization around this area, because it creates that framework for what you need to make this Olympic ready.
Yeah, it sounds like this is like in development right now, right? Of the development of this rule book and what kind of some of these things for these technical aspects of this that are actually going to be put out. Is that a resource that can be found currently? Like, how can gyms get their hands on something like that?
Yeah, so we are actually hoping, especially again as a gym owner, and others in our committee have the benefit of seeing both sides, like working within this organization, but then saying, hey, as a gym owner, I know that, Jake, you were Googling earlier, right? So we do want to create resources that we can provide for the gym. So I think really in the next few weeks, next month or so, we are trying to create that resource guide that we can put out to the gyms, to the different athletes. Again, more to come, hopefully very soon on that. But we know that has to take place for us to be a community that can really all understand the opportunities, but then understand really where the sport is going.
With that said, on the devil's advocate of that, like you're in the ninja gym business, you're in the industry. There's also resistance to some of these things. That gym does it that way, that gym does it that way, we do it this way, or that league does it that way. How do you envision just gyms and ninjas in general that have like set in their ways embracing some of these things for the standardization of X discipline? That's one question. It's overcoming that resistance for some of the gyms and or ninjas. And then the other thing is the way that it's portrayed, or it's going to be in the pentathlon. That's not true ninja, or that's not how ninja should be. That's the other thing that we have to overcome and educate. I feel like we need to help educate. Yeah, it technically isn't the purest of ninja. However, it's only going to help grow the sport. It's only going to help grow the gyms. It's only going to help get better obstacles in the gym, the progression of the sport. What are your thoughts on a couple of those things?
It's very relevant and applicable. I've had a lot of these conversations just in the last couple of weeks.
Totally.
So it's, first of all, I think I'd go back to that concept of the rising tide carries all ships, right? Our board, it's our goal to continue to foster good relationships with every league, with all of these athletes, and the parents, the different organizations within Ninja. I think we just understand there's a lot of dynamics at play there. And look, people do enjoy, I can speak from a family perspective. My family enjoys certain formats when they go out and do competitions, right? So I think it's really stepping back, not trying to get involved with specific league formats or weigh in on any of that, but it's stepping out and saying we have to be humble as a board of recognizing those dynamics are at play, continue to build those relationships with all leagues, all of our interests, and invite them to our organization. We're still, like I said, we're a volunteer, nonprofit organization, and our doors are open for those that want to find out more about the organization and apply to actually, join a committee. We have a leagues committee, we have an athlete committee, a media committee, and we've just gotten a little bit of a boom even the last couple of weeks of people interested saying, how can I get more involved in this, right? So
that's awesome.
But it's though it again goes back to, we're not looking to be, the ego of the sport overall. We're looking to collaborate. We're looking to try to continue questioning ourselves and saying, how can we do things better? Have we gotten enough diverse understanding of the issues, not just in one specific league or region? Like I said, it's great that we have so much experience and backgrounds of the different formats, of the different even regional view on our board. I think absent that, you can get really silo vision. I'm in the Northeast, so our gym, it competes in one specific league, and it's easy to be silo vision because that's what you experience. But that's where I think, again, it's important to have that range of experience on the board to help drive those different discussion.
Yeah, and I guess from my perspective as gym owner and being around athletes and getting parents' feedback, because that's nonstop. So, and it's really, and or higher level ninjas feedback, it's really progressing the sport. It's not changing some of what made the sport great or what makes it great, because there's different disciplines or different aspects, but it's progressing one avenue of the sport, which is only gonna rise all the ships, like you say.
Yeah, agreed.
Something that kind of dawned on me after the event, and I was reflecting on all the different leagues and all the courses that were there and all these things. American Ninja Warrior came out with their announcement that it's like speed head to head is that's what they're moving forwards with, and there's a lot of adrenaline and entertainment value towards that, and so that makes a lot of sense to me personally. I know a lot of ninjas were maybe up in arms about it, but reflecting on the event, it's like you guys made some pretty smart decisions early on. I don't know if you saw this coming, but that's how your guys' course is set up, right? So was that by design? Is that something that you've always, hey, we're going to go this direction, this kind of format, side by side, head to head racing, straight 100-meter, that kind of style of course. And now you're going to also see that represented in the pentathlon as well, right? So thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think to answer that, anything at the Olympic stage takes multiple years to, like, we're talking like decade plus to develop. So there's a long tail that existed before this. I got to give credit to some of those early adopters or early people who've tried to push it forward. You mentioned UNAA, Bob Clark, obviously a very early proponent of trying to see what it means to help push it on thrust on the Olympic stage. So, like, all of these things, I think were building blocks to get us there. Chris Wachowski from WNL, also somebody who has created a league thinking about how it can look internationally, right? I think we recognize that these leagues have done such a good job of getting the sport where they are. When we think about just the events leading up to us working in conjunction with Modern Pentathlon through World Obstacle, yes, the vision was there of okay, what does this look like? It is that speed head-to-head discipline. So it's this perfect marriage or perfect blend of, okay, that's American Ninja Warrior said that's where the future is, and pointing to 2028. Yeah, it's exciting that I think everyone is starting to come together on this is what's ahead of us. But I think we will step back and say, like, that to say something is the future doesn't mean that it won't change. It doesn't mean that it doesn't get added to, right? I think the side by side racing creates such a cool entertainment factor for the spectator, right? Like, it is so electric when you're there. If you saw the elites compete, even that side by side race between Isaiah Thomas and Caleb Bergstrom, separated by less than a second, was just those two just go head to head all the time, and anytime they go off against each other is electric. So that's, again, what we're hoping to capture as much as possible in terms of positioning the sport, or in terms of positioning that format, but then also saying that what we talk about in 2028 is the foot in the door, right? I don't think we want to stop there and say that's the only thing that will be at the Olympics in the future.
Yeah, it's good to be like right in the heat of that. Is like all these things are happening really just like in the last couple months, at least being announced publicly. I feel like you guys were in a really good position to have that course at the World Obstacle Expo this year, and have it be performed at such a high level as well. And this might just be my own ignorance, but how do people qualify for these events? Do you guys host these as standalone events? Do you have gyms involved? How does that work?
Yeah, it's great question. I'll step back and talk about the different formats that we've put on. So we've, in 2023 in Orlando, was a World Cup event, an open invitational, right? What we asked at that point was basically qualify for any league championship. So we recognize, championships, UNAA, FINA, Texas Ninja League, NINA. So going across all of those different leagues, as this is your qualifier to essentially compete in that event. We did it similarly in U.S. Nationals, where we recognized anybody who qualified for those world level championships could then compete on the course. In U.S. Nationals, it was a matter of we set that expectation up front, but then saying, as a result of U.S. Nationals, we could actually name our first U.S. national team, which has incredible implications as you think about the years to come, because the national team is who will represent that country in the Olympics in Olympic year, right? So it was neat to be able to do that for the first time in our inaugural national team. Another format that we have is World Championships. So it's each different country's national teams going against each other in a World Championships format. That is our national teams. We're also going to have an open format for everyone who's not on the national team to come compete. It will be, we'll take the times into consideration. So future events, even if you're not on the U.S. national team, you're getting out there for the World Championships, that time or that score becomes relevant for the selection committee of future U.S. national teams. So again, a lot of this is something that we are looking at ways of how we develop this and communicate it while we're developing it. It's a big learning experience of how we can communicate that to the general public, who just a ninja community who is used to, here's my way to go from qualifier to regionals or sectionals to worlds, right? So it is recognizing that we have an education requirement ahead of us to get that out to the community. It is what we're currently working through.
Sure. Yeah. I knew you guys are in the early years of this, and it's still, I think, like I've already said, that you guys are bringing to the table a level of professionalism, even being newly integrated into the industry. And that was one of the things that I have just seen so many questions about, which is this U.S. Nationals team. And I've even gotten a couple of questions. Do you know what this is all about? Why don't you just shed some light, like from a parent perspective, like their kid qualifies to this U.S. national teams. What does that mean? What kind of prestige comes with that?
Yeah, I think our official response has been, okay, we are putting out more information here in the coming weeks. But what I can speak to now is, again, this U.S. national team, you think about starting with the elites, this becomes the team of the future that we're setting forward for how we're going to pick who goes to the Olympics. So again, in a theoretical scenario where 2032, 2036, you have a national team at that level, these are the individuals that you look at any other sport, soccer or wherever else, you pick your delegates from the national team of who will, compete at that ultimate level, right? So that is the format of what a national team is. For Anaheim, we were able to name national teams at all age group levels. And again, what that really means is, first of all, you've demonstrated through doing this competition that you are national peak level of representing your country at that age group. I think as we go forward each year, that's where it comes to that selection criteria of, we obviously want to look at the holistic view, recognizing athletes compete across all different, leagues and disciplines. So really taking that into consideration in future years, where we have one event, U.S. Nationals, but then we also have a UNAA finals or a WNL finals, and really doing a holistic scoring of how that all weighs in to then pick what that national team is. So, this year, again, we were very excited to take that step forward. This is the first year that we really could name a national team. So I think it was going out there and recognizing we obviously want to continue communicating what that looks like in the future. But again, these athletes are representing their age classes and can compete at, say, a World Championships, which we are planning for this spring timeframe.
I think that over the next 4 years, it's going to be a lot of information, a lot of changes, or a lot of updates. It's going to be a quarter by quarter updates for parents and ninjas and all that. What we're talking about today, that might be different 6 months down the road, but that's the beauty of ninja right now.
The sport is evolving, right? But with the evolution of the sport, it is a re-education. It is making sure that as an organization, we're putting out the resources to help with that education. I know even personally in my own gym, there's such a learning curve for people who are new to the sport. That totally. We've put out like here's an intro to ninja, here's everything you need to know, where you can actually watch live streams for competition. So I recognizing there's learning curves along the way. We just have to be very proactive in that communication. Correct. In terms of what that looks like.
That's part of that open communication. Like ninja gyms and the industry needs to be open to communicating the best they can because it's only going to help them from in the gym, communicating with parents and other gyms, other leagues, from scheduling to just rules. Because the sport itself, the leagues and whatnot, the world finals get over 3 days later. Parents are like, when's the schedule come out? What? I don't even have my suitcase unpacked. Yeah, so it's never enough,
Yeah.
but it's always changing, and to be as proactive as possible. And it's great that you guys have gym owners, ninjas, leagues, people, and parents, whatever it is, giving input because that's something people need to understand is it's not just three smartest guys in the room up in the upper tower making these decisions. Sometimes it might be, but clearly you're not. And that's what people need to understand is this is a collective conversation. It's not just, oh, this is what we're going to do based off of this is how we feel about it. It's actually information processed and rolled out. So great
Yeah.
work with that.
Can't say it enough times that again that's how we're successful as a board. Like that it's part of our identity and our culture to be collaborative and use our different experiences so that we're also considering all the different stakeholders, all the different individuals that are at play. I'm a ninja parent, so I can appreciate the ninja parent side because again, we have vacations to plan for. We want to know where to go for that next competition. So you're right, that dynamic is definitely.
And like you say, you're volunteers. Like you're not doing this because you're getting a huge payday. Like you're doing this to improve the sport for the parents, for the family, for the ninjas. It's literally volunteers.
Yeah, there's a lot of sacrifices of time and even financial sacrifices. Again, we're flying ourselves out to these competitions and oftentimes staying days before, days after. It only works when you have passion about this sport, though.
But being a gym owner, you make $1 million anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Let's talk about this right beforehand. It is the glorious life, and what individuals see just with executing the competitions. That's it, right? There's nothing in terms of pest control you have to take care of beforehand.
Yeah. Or spend $500 to fix the front door lock, or that's not existed.
Let's end with this, and I'm starting to love to ask this question. What does ninja mean to you?
Ninja to me, just personally, is something where it started as, look, this is a cool little activity to make sure my kids aren't on their devices. Let's get them into a gym and check this out. What I love about this sport is its culture overall is so welcoming to all different athletes. I can't say enough good things about that culture because it doesn't exist in any other sports. You see how cutthroat some of these youth sports are nowadays. And yes, ninja parents put in a lot of sacrifices of their time and energy, but you go to a competition and there's so much positive encouragement around cheering for other athletes. And I think the development of these athletes, I've seen so many examples where individuals start off a year, at the end of the year, they have so much self-confidence and translatable skills, both mentally and physically, to set them up for the future, even if they don't continue with ninja. So I just love that ninja as a sport offers those pathways to just fully more develop an athlete holistically, both, like I said, from the mental and physical disciplines that ninja requires.
And just people better human beings, right?
Yeah.
That's what I love about it. But John, thank you so much for your time, your insights, the conversation today. I think that this will be really insightful for those who are asking these questions, because I know that there are a lot out there. How can people get involved with you? What's the best way to get in contact with USA Ninja?
Yeah, so I go start the website, www.usaninjas.org. We have information there to help further explain UIPM, World Obstacle, what it means to be for them to be a member of the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic committees. Start with the education there. I know it's easy to go onto the Ninja Guardians group because I love going out there, but get your information really from the website. Again, we're in collaboration with World Obstacle. You can definitely check out World Obstacles and UIPM's websites as well. But yes, we continue our efforts around putting out as much information as possible. You'll look for different press releases or videos that we'll be putting out in the next couple weeks to hopefully better explain, again, where we're seeing this sport develop and grow.
Can you speak to Ninja Guardians? What is that?
Ninja Guardians Facebook page. I think we probably, Ali, I think we probably need a whole another podcast episode to cover fully. But
straight up, that has been such a hub for a lot of people. But
yeah, is that a page for just general, or is that more industry?
It's for parents,
yeah,
athletes.
No, that's why I asked. That would be a good resource for listeners.
Yeah, absolutely.
Parents, they got the questions.
Yeah, Ninja Warrior Guardians Facebook. We'll give them a little.
Sweet. Thanks a lot, John. A lot of good insight. I learned some stuff already, so it's awesome to chat.
Yeah, Jake, Ali, appreciate you having me, and I look forward to seeing you guys around the different competitions and courses in the future.